G'day and welcome back to RC Model Reviews. Today I'm looking at this. It's the Quanum i8 radio system, and it's a low-cost radio. And if you fly fixed wing and other things, then forget it. Honestly, first of all, I'll go through what comes in the package. Then I'm going to explain why I just said that. Well, first of all, transmitter. Yeah, transmitter, it's plastic, it's lightweight. The sticks are pretty cheap. In the back, it uses a non-standard type of battery. It's this lithium battery here, Turnigy branded one. So it doesn't have AAs or it doesn't have a separate connector. You've got to use the battery. It comes with the battery, 1700 milliamps, which sounds like a lot, but remember it's only one cell, so it's the equivalent of about a, 600 and, what is it? Half of 1700, whatever that is, about a 750 milliamp two cell pack. So, no, maybe 850 milliamp two cell pack. So it's not a big battery, but it's probably more than enough, because you'll notice that on this transmitter here, there's no LCD, there's no wheelie buttons or clicky things. In fact, there's no damn way to program this thing aside from channel reversing at all. It's a really low entry level radio transmitter. Now the price, last time I checked, was $58. So I know when I first saw it, I thought, why would you spend $58 buying this when for another $9 you can get the Turnigy 9XR Pro, which has got telemetry and voice response and an ARM32 processor and an LCD and full programmability and lots of model memories and all the things this doesn't have. Well, I'll tell you why, because this is not a radio designed specifically for general purpose use. It's actually designed for one very specific use. And if you don't want to be farting around with manuals and software and things, it's probably not a bad option. But first of all, that's the transmitter. I'll pull it apart in a moment. We'll see how well it's built. But also you get the little bind plug, woohoo, yeah, and a USB lead. Gosh, I've never got one of those before. And a receiver. And here's the receiver. Now, it's obviously got antenna diversity, and it does 8 channels through normal connections, and it also does CPPM. As you can see, it is festooned with little logos and icons and so forth. But basically, I think it looks like it's the FlySky system that's been rebranded Quanum. I may be wrong, but it's basically got a CPPM output down here and then all the individual channel outputs, and I gather that they're all active at once. So unlike receivers like the D4R2 where you have a choice of CPPM or PPM, this gives you both at the same time, which is kind of cool, because you can use perhaps your first 6 channels for controlling your roll, pitch, yaw and flight controller settings, and the other 2 you might want to use with a suitable little switching board for turning LEDs off and on, maybe doing something else, dropping stuff. So it makes it quite nice and versatile. Certainly not a bad little system. When you look at it from that perspective, it's not a heavy receiver. It's got one of those thin plastic cases, so it's not very heavy. And there you go. It's even got a C tick. If you live in Australasia, it means that it's, it's not going to blow up. They give you certain, it's going to conform with the local radio frequency things. And I think it's got FCC on there as well, and a CE, and all the stuff that these things have these days. But that's the receiver, and this is the manual. And look, it's got a printed manual. That's a bonus. So many radios, including the 9XR Pro and the 9XR, don't come with printed manuals. So this has got all stuff written down so you can read it in the bath, but it's no plastic bag, sorry, don't drop it, you'll get it wet. Has really useful information and valuable tips like do not fly at night or in bad weather like rain or thunderstorm. It can cause erratic operation and loss of control. Who'd have thought? But anyway, all this garbage that we know about, beginners might not know, so that's not so bad. It goes through the introduction features. It tells you what your radio should look like. So if your radio doesn't look like that, then you're in trouble. Over here, blah, 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 blah. It tells you about the different controls, the sticks, the status indicator, and all the knobs and so forth. Woohoo! Tells you where to put your stickers, because it comes with stickers. Look, stickers. Woohoo! What more could you want than a radio that comes with stickers? And the reason they provide those stickers, I'll tell you a little bit more about later. Yeah, it's got, tells you about the receiver, how to plug in servos, which is kind of strange considering that this is actually targeted directly at people who have the APM and fly, like that's the flight control system for multi-rotors. It can be used for full size, for fixed wing as well, but most people use it for multi-rotors. So plugging servos directly into the receiver, not many people are going to do that. I'm going to tell you why, because even though they claim, let me find the right page in here. That's how to turn it on, that's really important. Pre-flight check. It doesn't have a range test facility from what I can see, which is a bit of a shame. You can do simple things like reversing the channels by moving the sticks to a certain position before you turn it on. There is the firmware update facility, but I haven't seen any updated firmware. Let's go back to the beginning about the basics of this radio, where it tells you what it's for. if I can find it. Here we go. Here we go. The i8 is an 8-channel, 2.4 gigahertz AF-HDS to a digital proportional RC system. It is compatible with multi-rotors, helicopters, fixed wing and gliders. It's a fixed ring actually, fixed ring. So if you've got a fixed ring, this is the radio for you. But honestly, you wouldn't use this for helicopters and you wouldn't use it very often for fixed wing. It wouldn't be a very good fixed wing radio because let me go through some of the reasons why not, because I've got a list of them here. There's no programmability apart from reversing the sticks on this thing. There's no way to reprogram it. So you can't put expo on, you can't put dual rates, you can't do set endpoints. None of the things that you're used to doing with a modern computer radio, none of those things can be done with the i8. But that's because you don't need to do any of those things when you're working with something like the APM flight controller. It takes care of so much of that stuff for you. But let's take a further look at why it's not really a fixed wing radio. Well, it's got no model memories. It's like the $24 super cheap Hobby King thing. There's no way to select a model. So quite often when you're setting up a fixed wing, different models have different directions for the servos and you might need different throws and so forth. You can't change it. One size fits all with this thing. So you're not going to be able to set it up to handle different models. So there are much better options if you want to go for a fixed wing radio. For example, as I said, you can get the Turnigy 9XR Pro on special, 67 bucks. Throw in another 30 bucks, gives you a Turnigy receiver and module, or go the extra money for the 40 bucks and get the Free Sky telemetry module and a receiver, and say you're getting really good there. Now this doesn't have telemetry, which I thought was a bit of an oversight, given that telemetry is really useful in a multi-rotor environment because you don't want your battery going flat unexpectedly, but there's no telemetry on this. It's just a one-way system. But as I say, it's a $68 radio, so although it's twice the price of the little 6-channel Hobby King system, it is still cheaper than the Turnigy 9XR once you put your module and stuff in there. Now, one thing I don't like is this. It's got a little connector there. That's for updating the firmware, but it's also for charging the battery. So you're limited to USB charging, which can be very, very slow. And so if you arrive at the field, your battery's flat, well, you're going to have to take an hour or so out of your day just to charge your radio. Not so happy with that. The other thing I don't like is this knob is great. This knob, I'll turn it on. You watch what the knob does. Ooh, turn the throttle down. Wait for the noise. Woohoo, there we go. As you turn this knob, the little light moves. Look, it changes colour. Isn't that brilliant? I don't know why, because I don't look at my transmitter when I'm flying, so there's no real value in that. But this is designed to correspond with the flight modes on the APM, which is great. Problem is that if you are flying, this knob is way too hard to operate with your fingers, so you have to take your hand off the sticks and flick the knob around. It would be much nicer if the knob was on this side, because then you could still have control of your yaw and pitch if you're mode 2, your roll and pitch with mode 2, and twiddle the knob there. So a little bit of ergonomics wouldn't have gone astray. One other thing, which is quite good for multi-rotor flies, is sliders. Look, this is where it has it all over the 9XR Pro. It's got sliders. So if you've got a gimbal, you can have your up and down, your left and right, or whatever on these sliders. Brilliant. Now that is a bonus feature. That's something I really like, and it's something that makes this radio even more suited to your multi-rotor, your drone operation, if you like. Sticks, they're cheap. They're cheap. I guess I could say nasty. Yeah, probably okay for multi-rotor operation because you're not banging sticks that much with a multi-rotor if you're doing like filming and so forth, but you know, they do betray the low price of the radio itself, you know, not a big thing. The other thing I found, which was really kind of odd, was when I went online to the Hobby King website, there's none of these receivers for sale. You can't buy these receivers separately yet. Perhaps they'll, well, I'm sure they will make them available as an accessory, as an option, but at the moment, if you buy one of these, it's one model, which I guess it's only got one model memory, but that doesn't matter so much on multi-rotors, as I say, because the flight controller can be set up to the transmitter, so you don't need to have multiple model memories on a multi-rotor thing, but you do need multiple receivers if you want to run more than one model. Bit of an oversight, Hobby King. You need to get the supply line for these sorted so that people can buy spare receivers when they buy the radio. That would be, you know, kind of nice. Now the other thing is they've got these sleeve dipole antennas. They improve the performance of a receiver somewhat by offering a more omnidirectional pattern, so you're less likely to get dropouts. I would like the option to have just ordinary antennas, but that's just me, you know. And the transmitter here, why couldn't, I mean, this is plastic. They obviously had the plastic done. Why did they bother with this easily broken, you know, rubber ducky thing here, when they could have had a handle up here, just like that Futaba I reviewed recently. Have a handle and have the antenna built into the handle. Then it's nice, and you can throw it in the back of the car because it's cheap, and people want to throw this in the back of the car when they take their stuff around. But at the moment, that's easily broken. That's not a good thing. You know, these are only a couple of bucks, but it would have been probably even cheaper to have it built in. Why didn't you build it in, Quanum? That would have been a great idea. Yeah, the only way you can tell, for example, without an LCD, another thing is, wait for it. The only way you can tell when your trims are centered is with the noise. So it beeps, makes a different tone when you've got your trim centered. Little thing, doesn't matter. It's got a 3-position switch here, and that's it. So you've got 2 sliders, 1 3-position switch, and a 6-position rotary knob. As I say, that's really for the APM flyers amongst us. Does it go to 6? It does go to 6. Look at that. Woo! That's about all I've got to say. Let's pull it apart and see how well it's been made. The back comes off pretty easily. There's just 4 self-tapping screws that go into plastic here. Not important because you're not going to be taking the back off and on very often at all. Looking inside, yeah, it's a $58 radio. Up here, I'm not that impressed. Let's take a closer look up there. Now, to be honest, this RF module looks a bit bodged. It's on a bit of an angle. Yeah, I don't know that I like that too much. If I can get, you can see the angle it's on there. Hopefully the camera will refocus. Probably won't. There you go. See, it's mounted on a bit of an angle. What's going on there? You know, who's responsible for that? Apart from that, of course, there's some very, very fine traces in here, and also some of these little daughter boards. You know, it's been designed okay. It's got that's your little buzzer up here in the corner. Fortunately, we've got little ID connectors there. The sticks, as I say, they're made to a price. There's no fancy bearings in these sticks, I'll tell you now. Yeah, and I have at least gone to the trouble of making a circuit board on here for the wires to connect, so the wires are not going to be hanging straight off the pots, which is a good idea. And same with the switch up here. The switch is mounted on a circuit board, which then has the wires on it, so you're not going to have the whole wire falling off because no one soldered it properly problem. There's your little sliders. They look fairly straightforward. I mean, yeah, there's not much to complain about, except, you know, as I say, I'm a little bit disappointed in that that RF module, which looks to be sort of almost hanging in the breeze there. But, you know, you pay your money and that's what you get. It's probably, I couldn't build one for 58 bucks, I tell you now. I couldn't build it for 58 bucks, so that's not too bad. And yeah, build quality, I'd give it a 3.5 out of 5. Let's see if it works. Yeah, there we go. Now, that's channel 2. That's the elevated channel. Yeah, that works. So let's have a look and see what kind of 2.4 gig frequency hopping it's doing. Okay, as you can see, it's actively hopping around there. And what I'll do is to get a composite picture there. We'll get it to build up the map of what it's using in terms of the spectrum. There you go. So yeah, it's using the whole band. That's not a problem. And it's, yeah, working pretty well. I've got no complaints there. That's certainly going to be reasonably resilient in terms of finding a gap in the 2.4 gig band if it's got a gap. So no qualms about the frequency hopping system, no qualms at all. So there you go. If you're looking for a good fixed wing RC system or helicopter system, then forget this. It's just not going to do the job. You're better off with one of those cheap $24 radios, honestly. But if you want something that seems to be completely designed to go with the APM flight controller, then this is definitely worth looking at, if only because it's going to save you a lot of farting around. It's, you know, it's cheap. It's, you know, let's face it, 58 bucks. That's pretty cheap as far as radios go. And as long as you don't need any of the features that it doesn't have, it should work really well. Now, I have an APM here. I'm going to set it up for a quad. And we'll just set it up. I'll go through the process in another video and we'll see just how easy it is to use this radio with the APM flight controller on a rotary wing, on a multi-rotor system. And I might compare it to a regular radio, just see if it's worth the extra functionality this has for the APM environment. So there you go. If you've got questions, comments, anything you'd like to know, then please leave them in the usual place and I'll do my best to answer them. In the meantime, that's the Quanum i8 from Hobby King, and this unit was sent in for review, so I always tell people when stuff has been sent to me for free so they don't think I'm just a shill for a product, and whether it's good or not, I'll tell you on these reviews. So there you go. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.